Hey, good morning. It is actually Tuesday, August 27th, so it's still summer. And welcome to Morning Jen. We've got a few top stories on the agenda, the most important one of which is that Jack Smith, the special counsel in the two federal cases against Donald Trump, in this case, we're talking about the documents case, that the documents that Donald Trump was hoarding and refusing to return at Mar-a-Lago, that yesterday he filed his brief with the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals, which is the federal appellate court above Judge Aileen Cannon, the person that Mary Trump refers to as her personal pocket judge. So Jack Smith made his filing yesterday in an attempt to revive the case because, as you know, Aileen Cannon dismissed it on what Jack Smith called nonsensical grounds. Now, before we get to that, and I really want to, I want to touch on a few other things. But first, I thought it was really important for you to see just how Jack Smith slammed Judge Cannon. And I won't get into the text of it now, but I want to show you what it looked like when he showed up in court. And it's really rare, that a special counsel would actually show up in court when they submit a brief. This is something that can be done online, but I thought you should see exactly how Jack Smith took it to the mat. Okay, I am a child. As you know, this is not actually Jack Smith at the courthouse. This is just an incredible GIF that I found, which is kind of the crypto eyes with Jack Smith, acting fierce. Okay, this is his outfit from The Hague. So, of course, this is not what he looked like yesterday. But in all seriousness, we are going to get to that filing. But first, I've got one personal thing to talk about. And then I have something to talk about regarding poor Donald Trump, something I meant to mention yesterday. Okay, so the first thing I want to share with you is this. If you've been Okay, there was something weird with my sound. Can you guys hear me now? Just let me know. Moderators, can you tell me? There's still no sound. Okay, let's do this now. Can you hear me now? Yes. Okay. It's not, you guys, it's not that I don't know how to do my sound. It's that my mic that you can see somehow disconnected. Maybe it was the way the thunderstorm hit, but I'm going to do this like this with just my voice and no special microphone. And I apologize, but that's how we're going to do it today. Okay, so back to this. I don't know when things cut out. I think that it was just briefly. So, okay, I am back. So, here's the deal. In this photo is also an umbrella. And the umbrella, it's crazy, but the umbrella is at my office because that is what happens when you do a photo and it doesn't end up, occurring to you that you should bring the swag back. Anyhow, so here is the deal. I'm looking back, guys, and oh God. Okay. We lost the audio a little, just a minute or two ago. I am so sorry. Okay. So at any rate, the umbrella is back at the office and I am going to have to travel in the rain. Hopefully my mom, where I'm staying right now, has one. Also in the swag photo, I have a hoodie sweatshirt from Wayne State, a hat, I have a bag. Guys, the point is I have socks. I have too many of these things and I love swag. So if there is anybody who would like some of my Wayne State swag and can represent for my law school, shoot me a note or contact the mods and let me know and we can arrange. I could send you one of these things. You just give me the postage. I will share the swag. I love it. I think I'm going to have to keep the hoodie for sure, but let me know if you're interested in any of this. Okay, so the other thing that I want to share with you is that Donald Trump is freaking out. And again, I'm going to talk about this before we get to the Jack Smith case. Donald Trump is freaking out because things aren't going his way in two regards. One, he has a debate on the calendar, as you know, for September 10th. And last time I checked, that is 2 weeks away. And the man does not want to debate. He does not want to be on stage with Kamala Harris because he will absolutely fail. And I'm just going to show you what is going on. This was 2 days ago. And here is what Donald was doing. He was on True Social saying all the kinds of nonsense that he usually says in some type of way to try to weasel his way out of the debate or make some excuses. Okay, so here's what he said. I watched ABC fake news this morning. Both lightweight reporter Jonathan Karl, a ridiculous and biased interview of Tom Cotton, who was fantastic, and their so-called panel of Trump haters. And I ask, why would I do the debate against Kamala Harris on that network? Will panelist Donna Brazile give the questions to the Marxist candidate like she did for crooked Hillary Clinton? Will Kamala's best friend, who heads up ABC, do likewise? Where is little George Stephanopoulos hanging out now? Will he be involved? They've got a lot of questions to answer. And they've got a lot of questions to answer. And why did Harris turn down Fox, NBC, CBS, and Team CNN? Stay tuned. Okay, I think we all know what he means by that. And this is not a photo from when he sent out this True Social post, but he does, as you can see, look a lot like what Ben Affleck looked like when he was standing outside of his apartment building smoking a cigarette after he had married J-Lo. Now, someone corrected me, and they're right. Jennifer Lopez did file for divorce, but someone did correct me. This was not their second marriage. They had been together previously, but had not married before. At any rate, he looks about as unhappy with his fate as Ben Affleck did in that photo. Okay, so let us now get to the lead story, which is Jack Smith, right? And the best way to talk to you about that filing is to remind you of a few things. Now, remember that this involved a raid on Mar-a-Lago because a grand jury had been investigating Donald Trump because he had not returned many of the top secret and national security documents to the National Archives like he was required to do under the Presidential Records Act. And as you know, he left office. He was practically dragged out of the White House after trying to stage a coup against the country, in case you forgot. And when he left, and there's photographic evidence, he was taking a lot of banker's boxes here and there, some of which included things that he should not have been taking with him. And he was asked several times to return the documents to the government, and he didn't. And so grand jury in early 2022 was investigating him. And when there still was more trouble, there was the raid in August. And I'm skipping over some things, but August of 2022, that's when when there was a raid on Mar-a-Lago. I call it a raid, even though some people have some objection to it, but it was a search. I would, you can call it a raid if you want. I don't think that's pejorative. This guy is a criminal, and that's what was going on. They took the documents, they found out what he was keeping, and then this was being investigated. Now, this was before there was a special counsel. This was just the Department of Justice through prosecutors doing this. And that happens in 2022. And then in 2023, the indictment was unsealed about a year later. That was like the summer of 2023. And it wasn't till November, I'm sorry, I'm getting this backwards, of 2022, that the indictment was unsealed and a trial date was, let me back up. The special counsel was appointed in November of 2022. And then, so that's what happens first. So we get summer of 2022, there's the raid. November of 2022, suddenly there is a special counsel appointed, and that's the heart of this case. Then we have the trial that was set after the trial. You guys, I'm thrown by my microphone. Let's just start over. The raid was summer of 2022. 22. That's a year after he left office. Then in November of 2022, Merrick Garland appoints Jack Smith as special counsel. The summer after, the indictment was unsealed, summer of 2023, and we were supposed to, this May of 2024, have the trial. But that trial got postponed because of Aileen Cannon deciding that she wanted to put sand in the wheels. This is what she always does. And then we ended up with this situation where she had these hearings to decide whether Jack Smith, when he was appointed in November, whether he had been, in November of 2022, whether that was improper. So let's take a listen to what was in the filing. And I think the best way to do this is my friend Lisa Rubin over at MSNBC. We're going to play pieces of this and then we'll analyze. This is her when the filing came in last night.
So special counsel Jack Smith has filed an appeal to get this case back on track. It's about 81 pages, excuse me. What is the argument?
Well, Katie, the argument is exactly what we expected it to be, that essentially Judge Aileen Cannon ignored Supreme Court precedent when she found that the 4 statutes that Merrick Garland had invoked in order to appoint Jack Smith did not comport with the Constitution. And in doing so, she then found that under Article 1, Section 2, both the Appointments Clause and the Appropriations Clause, there was not constitutional authority for the Attorney General to appoint Jack Smith or any other special counsel because that person was operating sufficiently independently of the Department of Justice that they should be Senate confirmed. In this brief, the thing that I was really looking for was an argument that Judge Cannon should be removed or recused from the case. I don't see that yet in the 81 pages that you just mentioned. But of course, we just got this a moment ago, and it will take I and others some time to parse through it.
I'm going to be watching my email because I know we have a number of people here at NBC News and MSNBC reading through it. I want to read a little bit from it, and I'm going to ask you to translate it for me. The other provisions they cite, 28 U.S.C. and 509 and 510, they grant the Attorney General broad power, Jack Smith argues, to operate the Department of Justice. They also authorize him to appoint the special counsel in this case. Those provisions, first enacted as part of the law that created the Department of Justice, authorize the Attorney General to structure and staff the department in order to fulfill his law enforcement responsibilities. And attorneys general have long relied on sections 509 and 510 with Congress's full knowledge and approval to create the Justice Department's institutional infrastructure, and Congress has long used similar provisions to authorize other department heads, such as the Secretaries of Defense, State, Treasury, and Labor, to appoint inferior officers to carry out critical work.
Okay, I'm going to pause now because I think you can hear me. My mic is back up and it is green. Let me just say something. Lisa Rubin is now going to launch in to this piece, and it's really important. She is going to emphasize here what Jack Smith argues in this case, which is that what Aileen Cannon did is absolutely nonsensical. She is not following precedent at all. And if you remember our discussions about this earlier, the only sliver of credibility she has is in one piece of the dissent that Clarence Thomas filed in the unrelated case, right? Filed in the case involving the interference in the election, where the Supreme Court granted broader immunity to former presidents when they commit crimes, when they do things with the intent, the proper intent to violate a federal statute. They are immune in a whole range of areas that we never thought they were. And in that dissent, in his concurrence, Clarence Thomas said, oh, and by the way, in my opinion, Jack Smith was improperly appointed. Okay, so let's continue to listen to what Lisa Rubin's saying here.
The second part of what you mentioned, analogizing to other departments in the executive branch, is a really interesting argument, because essentially they're trying to say, if you undo this and you don't allow Merrick Garland, for example, to appoint special counsels, there will be reverberations not only across the Department of Justice, but across the entire executive branch, where other secretaries rely on similarly worded statutes to appoint people who otherwise aren't Senate confirmed or appointed by a president to do the important work of the national government, Katie.
Okay, let me translate that. Lisa's super smart, and I want to make sure everyone understood that. You have probably seen on television Senate confirmation hearings for things like high-level cabinet positions or for like the attorney general or for justices. But I'm sure you are well aware that there are many positions where people get appointments in the federal government, in the executive branch, where that does not happen with the president going through the same process. It would be mind-blowing if things were slowed down in that way. The way this works is someone else gets the authority, in this case, Merrick Garland as the Attorney General, to appoint what we call inferior officers. And the word inferior, I hope you know, does not, even though it connotes the kind of lesser than that makes it sound like you are not qualified, it just means below as opposed to at the top level. So this idea that Lisa's talking about here is not only is Justice Cannon wrong, and to rule in to have the 11th Circuit uphold their decision to throw this case out because her stupid and uninformed and without basis argument that he was improperly appointed to this role, that would obviously mean this case is thrown out. And if the 11th Circuit not only upheld it, but the Supreme Court did, so would the other federal case led by Jack Smith. He would be removed there as well. So that's bad enough. But what she's talking about here is the whole federal government would grind to a halt because you would never be able to have people in important roles appointed through the political process as opposed to hired as civil servants, like appointed by the current president's, administration, unless they went through that very arduous Senate confirmation process. That has never been the way we've done things. That is not right on the law, and it's idiotic. Let's continue with Lisa.
Why are they citing Nixon here?
Nixon is really the case that essentially says that there is power through these statutes, Section 509, 510, you've already cited, and two more, that it invests power in the Attorney General to appoint these inferior officers. Their argument is that Jack Smith is such an inferior officer. Judge Cannon disagreed, saying that language from Nixon is what legal scholars would call dicta, that it's not central to the holding of the case, but sort of an ancillary side observation or remark that the court makes that doesn't have precedential effect. Obviously, the special counsel.
Okay, so she's again speaking like a lawyer. So there is a case involving Richard Nixon. I'm sure you've heard of this president. And although it was under a different statute, it wasn't the special counsel, it was a special prosecutor, that was upheld. There was no problem with the way in which a special prosecutor was appointed before. There was no, this has been ruled on in the past. And what Aileen Cannon in this case contends, and what the other side would contend, is that the comments made in the Nixon case being dicta means that they weren't essential to the holding of the case that required Nixon to hand over the Watergate tapes, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, that it was just a side comment, a throwaway comment, and it's not precedent. That's the best argument they've got. Let's listen more.
Office disagreeing with that here, saying Nixon is binding on her and all other courts. It's the same reason why, for example, the D.C. Circuit, when asked to pass judgment on the propriety of the appointment of then special counsel Robert Mueller, came to the opposite conclusion as Judge Cannon did.
So they're appealing, correct me, to the 11th Circuit?
That's right.
What's the expectation?
Well, the 11th Circuit has not been kind to Judge Cannon before. First, finding well before the indictment of former President Trump was ever filed that two decisions that she made having to do with the appointment of a special master were not really appropriately grounded in law. And the second of those two decisions, finding that the special master's process was fully unlawful, was a decision joined by three Republican appointed judges, two of whom were Trump appointees themselves.
Okay, so Lisa's reminding us of this history. This gets deep. And I just want to, again, back up and say, what translation? This isn't the first time that Judge Aileen Cannon did something that was so off the chain that Jack Smith went to the 11th Circuit and said, what the hell is she doing, guys? And the 11th Circuit said, what the hell are you doing, Cannon? And she got reversed. And this was early on in the case before she'd officially gotten it. This was right after the raid on Mar-a-Lago. So we're talking about the fall of 2022. And I actually went to New York City to one of these hearings where they were being held by this special master. And Cannon was using this whole special master process and manipulating it to try to slow it down, to try to allow, the worst part was to try to allow Donald Trump's lawyers and others to get their hands on and possibly circulate the documents that had already been taken from him that are highly, highly sensitive national security secrets. So what Lisa's reminding us is that Cannon has a bad record with the 11th Circuit. Let's continue.
So the 11th Circuit has a history here of being somewhat maverick where it comes to former President Trump. We'll see if they continue that streak here, Katie.
Without specifically asking for her to be removed, could the 11th Circuit come to that conclusion independently?
I believe that they do have that authority. I would have to check that. But I do believe that they could come to the conclusion on their own. On the other hand, it would.
Okay, so I'm going to remove Lisa here. She was responding right after the filing came in. Here's the bottom line. This is a process. First, Jack Smith has gone up and asked for the case to be revived and to have Aileen Cannon slapped back once again and told that she does not know the law, period. After they win, and they will win this is uniformity among legal experts here. Unless the 11th Circuit is in the bag in some way, which I don't believe they are, there are three judges assigned to this will rule against Cannon. And if they don't, I'm sure Jack Smith will ask for an en banc hearing of the full 11th Circuit. So she's going to lose. The case will be sent back. And after that, I think Jack Smith will ask for her removal. This is untenable. This case is too important. And I don't know if he will actually say that there's an appearance of bias, but certainly there's an appearance of incompetency. Okay, so that's what we've got on that case. And I think that's pretty exciting. It's big news, but it's one of these kinds of hurry up and wait. That is the justice system, unfortunately. And for Donald Trump, delay has always been on his side. Now, one detour before we get to Crazy Town, which is this. It's not just that he is afraid of September 10th. Donald Trump should still be afraid of September 18th. And as you probably remember, although September 10th is the debate that if he doesn't show up for, he will be, ridiculed as a coward. There's no way he gets around that. But he would be a fool to show up because Kamala Harris will wipe the floor with him. But a week later, on the 18th, is the sentencing hearing in New York. And we shall see what goes down there. Now, I know that Alvin Bragg has said that he's fine if that gets delayed. But this still looms over Donald Trump because even if it's delayed, it's still out there. He is still been convicted by a jury on 34 felony counts. And this is going to hang over his head regardless of what happens in September. So there you go. Things are not going that well for Donald Trump. And now it is time for Crazy Town. So, my friends, Crazy Town, I'm sad to say, is the gray lady, the one-time paper of record. Crazy Town is the New York Times. And no, I'm not talking about my rant from yesterday. When I was talking about the ridiculous piece. I'll bring it up now again. This is the argument from this clearly sexist columnist, Patrick Healy, that joy is not a strategy. As you remember from yesterday, he's the same guy who was mocking Hillary Clinton about her laugh. And as you remember, as we discussed yesterday, he has not ever, that I've noticed, talked about the way men laugh or the way men lie, or, speaking of Donald Trump, or the strange accordion hands that Donald makes, or his weird dancing. No, attacking women for their smiles, their attitudes, their emotional behavior is what he does, and he does not turn that on anyone else. But I don't want to blame him entirely. It's up to the New York Times to decide how to fill their editorial page. Balance matters. Look, I'm glad to read that piece by him, because then I can laugh at it and say, okay, that's how some people feel. Speech, and more speech. But the New York Times appears to have a bias, because they're not publishing similar op-eds. And now it's making me think maybe I should submit a guest column about this. Let's see. What do you think, guys? Tell me in the chat. I have written columns for the New York Times before as a guest. Maybe I should spend a little time and do this. At any rate, the latest, though, the crazy town today is the latest piece in the New York Times opinion page that came out. And I just find this, utterly, utterly stunning. And this is a piece written by Rich Lowry, who is not just like an ordinary person. I mean, Rich Lowry is, he has his own newspaper, right? He is editor-in-chief of the National Review. So they're giving space, and then in the New York Times, okay, fine, for someone who has his own outlet. And here is the piece. And I have to tell you, when I saw this, when people told me this was real, I didn't believe them. Yesterday was my first day teaching. I was quite busy running around doing things, and I thought this was a joke. But guys, this is real. This is a headline: Trump can win on character. This is this guest essay. What? I mean, that is all I really need to say for Crazy Town, but we will continue. What you can see in the photographic that they chose looks to be the floor. It looks like a bit of a stage photo. There's a "We fight, we win." There's some, it looks like another sign above that says Harris Walls. I can recognize it, maybe the green one. I'm not entirely sure what's on here, but yeah, it's like showing the kind of decay after the very fun DNC, the DNC convention. And there's more to this, though. So what did Rich Lowry have to say? Okay, I'm going to read these to you because I think this is a lot of fun, because it is totally batshit crazy. So again, guest essay in the New York Times. And remember, he's talking about Donald Trump here. Yes, character, Colette. Yeah. Okay, presidential races are won and lost on character as much as the issues. And often the issues are proxies for character. Not character in the sense of a candidate's personal life, but the attributes that play into the question of whether someone is suited to the presidency. Is he or she qualified? I'm going to say for Donald Trump, no. Trustworthy? No. And strong? No. And does he or she care about average Americans? No. Okay, I'm adding the no's here, but this is what he's actually presenting in defense of Donald Trump. Presidential races, in this sense, are deeply personal. They usually involve disqualifying the opposing candidate rather than convincing voters that his or her platform is wrong-headed. Okay, this is from the same New York Times, who yesterday published a piece, a guest opinion, or actually opinion from one of their editors about joy not being a strategy and that you really need a platform. Meanwhile, Kamala does have one. Let's continue with Rich Lowry here. Okay. So then later in the piece, he says, by the same token, Mr. Trump isn't going to beat Ms. Harris by scoring points in the debate over price controls or the border. Everything has to be connected to the deeper case that Ms. Harris is weak and a phony and doesn't care about the country or the middle class. Okay, what? did like the editor mess this up? Because that makes no sense. She's flippin' strong. This is a woman who worked her way up, who was a local prosecutor in California, became the attorney general of California, then was a senator, and then became the vice president. And this is somebody, when we talk about being strong, again, she's not weak, was able to in 1 week sew up in the mini open primary between the time Joe Biden stood down and endorsed her and the time that she had sewed up all the delegates, not officially, but unofficially, 1 week. She pulled off what no one has ever done in history of our presidential races since she's been in the race, since just that date, like I guess it was, now we're not saying a month, 5 weeks ago, raised $500 million. I don't call that weak, but okay, you do you, Rich. And then he says, and a phony? Phony? I think the phony label is a smear against women. I did not realize this until a few years ago when someone explained that when people say they don't trust women, there are some people who just think women pretend to be something they're not in order to manipulate men to give them all. Okay, my plan, you guys, since my mic just went off again, is I am going to return this microphone to where I ordered it from because it's not acceptable. I ordered it directly from Shore, and I am not happy with them. So sorry, guys. I will do that, and I will just, we will just be dealing with this right now. Okay. So, anyhow, so again, the idea that she doesn't care about the country or the middle class, are you kidding? I can't think of anyone who has shown more concern about the country and the middle class. Her policies go directly to helping the middle class. If you look at what her plans are in terms of building affordable housing, that she supports the child tax credit. I mean, I just don't, that she opposes Donald Trump's tariff policy, which would crush the middle class. Okay, so this doesn't make a lot of sense. And then Lowry continues, the scattershot Trump attacks on Harris need to be refocused on these character attributes. Okay, so he's basically saying lie about her, that should work. And now this is my favorite part. This is a sort of hidden gem, dicta, if you will, right? Not really at the heart of the argument, but there's something buried here. This made me crack up, you guys. He says, Mr. Trump's campaign has been shrewd to begin to hold smaller, thematic-focused events rather than just set him loose at rallies where there is the most opportunity for self-sabotaging riffs. Are you flippin' kidding me? The reason why his campaign is holding small events in restaurants is because he can't fill up arenas. Everyone's tired of his shtick, right? I think I've told you before, Donald Trump is like a guy, a failing MC on his last night of his job before he gets fired at a resort in the Catskills that is about to go out of business. I'll be here all week. Try the veal. I mean, come on. He practically said that at the Italian restaurant in Nevada. So this made me laugh. You guys, I think if they actually think that attacking Kamala's character, when this man is been convicted on 34 felony counts, that he stole national security documents and shared them with people he should not have after he was president, that we know, ridiculed veterans and called people who served in the military suckers and losers, that we know that he, when he was in office, wanted to shoot civilians, that no one, practically anyone who was in his inner circle, wants to support him now, and he called for the assassination of his vice president, that he tried to foment an insurrection and violated, I mean, should I go on and on? The idea that Donald Trump could win on character, that he might be fit for office, that he cares about the middle class, and that's how they're going to distinguish him from Kamala Harris, and that they are going to somehow convince people that he looks better than her. I don't know what Richard Lowry is smoking, or if he's just auditioning to get a consulting gig and get paid by Donald Trump, because this is opposite town. This is crazy town on steroids. And that's what I got for you today. I will see you tomorrow morning, and we will not have tech problems, I promise.